Hello, welcome to Matthew chapter 9. What happens in the beginning of this chapter is it says Jesus heals a paralytic. What happens is they bring this paralytic to Jesus, and instantly he says, because of your faith, he says, your sins are forgiven. And the people, the crowd around him said, this is blasphemy. I just looked up the word blasphemy and what it actually means. It's a word that I've used in my life, and I feel like I've always understood, but I just wanted to make sure I knew exactly what it meant. But what it's saying is that it's just speaking things you shouldn't say about God. It's speaking profanely about God. And here Jesus, and rightfully so, he's saying, I am God. The people are saying, who can forgive sins except for God? Because God is the one who's in charge of all. Everything that we've sinned is a sin against him, because he is the one who created us, and he's the one who knows what we were made for. So anything that we sin against him. Anyways, so they look at him and they say, you're profaning, you're blaspheming. And he says, is it easier, what's easier? Is it easier for me to say, rise, take up your bed and walk? Or is it easier to say, your sins are forgiven? And the answer to that question is, it's not easy to say either of those things, because you would need to be God to do either of them. However, everybody expected him to heal the man. So, why did they expect him to heal him and not be able to forgive his sins? I don't know. But he said, rise, take up your bed and walk, and the guy gets up, takes up his bed and walks. So here's a clear evidence that Jesus is claiming to be God here. On the next part, I'm not gonna go into too much of depth into Matthew chapter 9 here, but what he says is he goes out of his way to meet Matthew, the person who wrote this gospel. And he calls him, and Matthew is a tax collector. A tax collector essentially would be a traitor. It's someone who has turned his back on the Jews, even though he was a Jew, and he's collecting money for the Roman government. So when he goes over to his house, he said, all the Pharisees were like, he's eating with sinners. Eating was a big deal back then. Eating with people means like you're with them, you're friends with them, more so than in our culture now. Today you can eat with your enemy, and that's fine. But they said that he's eating with tax collectors and sinners. It's funny that they always put tax collectors and sinners together. But they said, why are you doing this? And he said, why don't you look up and try and figure out what this means? He doesn't say this, but in the book of Hosea, he said, how is it written? He said, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. And I don't know if it's translated very well, but mercy, sometimes it's translated love. If you look it up, the word in the Greek, it means like steadfast love. Like, I want steadfast love. And sacrifice, it doesn't mean so much like a sacrifice as much as like just doing rituals. It's like, I don't want your rituals, I want your love. And the tax collectors and the sinners, they love me. And you guys are just doing the rituals. And I feel like that's something we do today. You know, we can go through the act and you know, pretend like Christians and tell people we're Christians, but in the end we're just going through it. It's like, do you really love God? So I guess there's one more part I want to highlight. You know, there's a couple other things that happen in this chapter, but one of them just spoke to me personally, and I don't even know why. But it said that Jesus healed a man who was mute. It said that he had been oppressed by a demon and not possessed. He was probably a really nice guy, I don't know, but he wasn't a demon-possessed person. But a demon was keeping him from speaking. And Jesus did a bunch of miracles, but after he did this one, it went through the village, it went, you know, all throughout the area, and everybody was saying, I have never seen anything like this ever in Israel. Like, nothing in Israel has ever happened like this before. And I think I mean, he heals lepers. He heals blind people. And this mute guy, this is the thing that everybody's like, I can't believe this. But I understand it. I feel like if you would have known someone that walked in your, you know, around your village, you know, a person that everybody knew, like, that person can't talk. He hasn't been able to talk for a very long time. Maybe even he was, maybe he never spoke, you know, but a person that you would know, and then he's just coming up and he's speaking to you. He's relating to you. I feel like that would be pretty surreal. It'd be like, how did this happen? And the man who I'd never spoke to before, but who I knew, would say, Jesus healed me. I think that would be pretty persuasive. And I just kept on thinking about it. Like, what would it be like to know someone and never be able to speak to them, and then just one day you're like, hi, I have never spoken to you before, but I'm delighted to. So, well, those are my thoughts on Matthew chapter 9. All right, have a great day.